A group of archaeologists unearthed an object that is 450 million years old.
Paleontologist Dale Guthrie cooked a steak from an ancient bison and fed it to his colleagues. Scientists found an unusual artifact that could alter history.
I didn't instantly see what linked these findings. Fragments just kept appearing one after another. A two-headed ancient figurine, a bronze hoard in a cauldron, and a whistle from a vanished city. All of this isn't myth or legend. These are real objects found by archaeologists in various corners of the world. There are no alien technologies here, but there are artifacts that archaeologists look at longer than usual. Someone carved their name into a rock, unaware it would last thousands of years. Someone hid 3 coins and never came back, and someone wore a 450 million year old artifact on their chest. Hello, my friend, you're on the Kurtop channel. Ammonite amulet? Romans often made nature's oddities into personal talismans, as the Galicia find confirms. In the household trash of an aristocratic house, archaeologists found a trilobite fossil over 450 million years old. There are no holes in the stone, so it was most likely worn in a metal or bone setting, as a miniature family amulet. With a claim to the power of the ancient sea, researchers also suggest another explanation. The trilobite could have been a game piece for a board game like Ludus, Latrunculus, or Lorem, which was loved in the provinces. Such a case is extremely rare. This is only the 3rd recorded case of a trilobite being used by humans, and the first in a Roman context. This reshapes how we view the elite's tastes of that era. In the ancient world, collecting oddities was a trend. Emperor Augustus, for example, bought living fossils no worse than modern billionaires. Such a talisman is not just an ornament, it's a demonstration of control over time. You wear a Paleozoic artifact around your neck, once thought to ward off the evil eye and bring luck to the squad. Secret Wife, Berlin, Kasselbuch Church. Restorers discovered a carved, gilded 18th century sarcophagus hidden under the floor, as if the mistress had anticipated that she would be sought even after her death. All the details match. This is Countess Julia von Voss, lady-in-waiting to the lawful queen and secretly married to Friedrich Wilhelm II. Their morganatic marriage was performed in 1787 with the queen's approval, but their happiness ended 2 years later. Julia died of tuberculosis and asked to rest in the very parish church where she was born. The Department for the Protection of Monuments decided not to open the coffin. Ethical decisions outweigh sensational images, and saving unique structures matters more than quick reports. But even a closed sarcophagus speaks of agreements at court, of the price of personal will, of memory that can easily be rewritten if there is no material evidence. And it's good that we have it. The Cauldron of Warbrandenburg on the Havel. In the courtyard next to Hodkardkirchplatz, archaeologists are uncovering a layer of old half-timbering and pulling a copper cauldron out of the ground. Inside, there aren't hundreds of coins, just 3 silver rings. Yet these reveal more about the past than books. This is a Swiss Dicken from Zug, dated 1610, featuring St. Oswald, and a Reichsdaler from 1618, right from the beginning of the 13 Years' War. A 1634 Hamburg City coin with Ferdinand II's name, and 3 different mintings. 3 routes: Switzerland, the Netherlands, northern Germany, and Hamburg. This geography shows that in devastated Central Europe, money moved with refugees, mercenaries, craftsmen, and trade caravans. Why are there just 3 coins in such a big cauldron? The simplest explanation is the owner had just begun collecting a reserve and hadn't returned for it yet. There's another possibility. The valuables were split among several hiding places to avoid losing everything at once. And this spot was just one of them. Slag, solder drops, and non-ferrous metal fragments were found nearby. A craftsman once worked here, using the cauldron as a regular tool until the war made it a safe. This set captures the era's spirit, when people constantly prepared for war, epidemics, or other crises by stocking up for hard times. Sometimes the past isn't about chests full of thalers, but just 3 silver coins hastily hidden to survive until tomorrow. Artifacts of El Toro. Under the name El Toro, hundreds of stone and bone objects circulate online. Books made of slabs with embossed covers, masks, figurines with almond-shaped eyes, and tablets with unknown writing. They are reportedly found on El Toro's hills in Mexico, with estimates ranging from several thousand to 20,000 items. Some artifacts are skillfully crafted, featuring neat carvings and repeated motifs. On the other hand, there are no published excavation reports with coordinates, stratigraphy, associated ceramics, and laboratory datings that would allow us to distinguish genuine antiquities from modern forgeries. El Toro artifacts are often displayed with Peru's Ica stones. It's also a massive collection, also features themes of out-of-place knowledge, and there's also controversy surrounding their authenticity. There are expedition reports from enthusiasts surrounding El Toro and even mentions of laboratory tests, but it never gets to verifiable publications in specialized journals or museum attribution. There are still no proper reports or datings. It's a large, beautiful, privately owned collection of various sizes, but not suitable as a source for ancient history. One more clarification. Don't confuse Mexico's El Toro with Spain's Cueva del Toro, which is a classical archaeology site. The layer is the context for the dating of the publication, including works on bone, double-pointed tools, and Neolithic economy. This is exactly what the evidence base looks like, and this is precisely what the Mexican El Toro lacks. A jar with a rooster. During excavations in the center of Moscow, a small pomade jar with a relief of a rooster was found. An urban accessory that instantly takes us back to mirrors, fragrant ointments, and cosmetics of past centuries. These containers, made of ceramic or glass with ground lids, held fatty mixtures for lips and skin, sometimes scented balms. The wear and pigment traces show how much they were used. The rooster on the lid is not just a decoration. In European symbolism, it means vigilance and good luck. In the urban environment, it serves as a personal mark of the owner and also as the voice of the morning, when you need to go out to people as the best version of yourself. It is from such little things that the portrait of the city is formed, with its smells, workshops, markets, and the habit of wearing small emblems of the day. The birds will tell you. Kayalapinar is a modern village in Sivas province, central Anatolia. Beneath it lies Samuha, a key Hittite hub from the Bronze Age. It was both an administrative center and a sanctuary, where decisions came from offices and rituals. Here, archaeologists found a small clay tablet with cuneiform on both sides and a hole, indicating it was worn on a cord. The format is more like a priest's working memo than a book for shelves. The text covers ornithomancy, divination by birds, considering their flight, calls, timing, and reactions to sacrificial food. For us, this is not some ancient exoticism, but a direct look into the mechanism of power. In the Hittite kingdom, such predictions were official rules that shaped wars, dynastic marriages, and treaties with neighbors. In those same layers, they found a mini-archive, dozens of tablets and royal seal impressions of Katu Sili III and Queen Puduhepa, a connection that tightly weaves divination with bureaucracy and shows how religious practice was integrated into political governance. We see how signs became decisions, with the priest and scribe acting as parts of one machine. Signs of the ocean of Oahu, Hawaii. At Waianae's Army Beach, the ocean washed away sand again, revealing a panel of 26 petroglyphs at low tide. Anthropomorphic figures, lines, gestures, they appeared after the 2016 storms, but this summer the whole scene became visible. Roughly 35 meters of sandstone carvings, some covered in bright green algae, making their outlines visible in the shimmering water. Dating is not simple. Archaeological evidence suggests that by the late 500s and 600s, the Waianae coast was inhabited, with its own ceremonies and connection to the sea. Local keepers of tradition read a ritual story in the composition. The main figure raises one hand and lowers the other, symbolizing sunrise and sunset. 8 figures are clearly male. The rest lack identifiable gender, which may be intentional rather than a carver's error. The beach changes yearly as storms shift the stones, sometimes revealing them, sometimes hiding them with waves. Madagascar, 10th century, southwest of the island, Ihorombe region, on the Taniki Plateau. The team from the University of Bern is uncovering an entire stone world. Terraces carved into the rock, niches, artificial pools, and traces of a quarry scattered over an area of more than 8 square kilometers. Radiocarbon analysis of charcoal from the cultural layer confidently places it in the range of the 10th to 12th centuries. This is where it gets interesting. Certain elements of the complex eerily closely resemble Iranian, Zoroastrian burial monuments known as Towers of Silence, where bodies were left in the open air and the cleansed bones were later moved to stone repositories. In Tiniki's niches, there are doorway recesses, and some rooms mirror Persian crypt layouts. No direct remains exist, the climate may have erased them, but the architectural logic strongly suggests the presence of groups with Iranian religious roots in Madagascar. In the early Middle Ages, fragments of Chinese and South Asian ceramics from the 11th to 14th centuries add another identity. The island was so linked to the Indian Ocean trade that even a settlement 200 kilometers inland was part of the transoceanic exchange. If confirmed, the educational models on Madagascar settlement must be revised to include Persian influence and interior plateau overland communications. The female image of Moromi. Russia, right bank of the Oka, necropolis, Zviaginsky. Two thought to have been looted by black diggers, it still produced a rare find. A female burial with nearly complete jewelry, a forehead band, twisted wire, temple rings, an open-work brooch on the chest, a thin belt buckle, and waist pendants. It's more than beautiful. The set wordlessly revealed age, status, allegiance, and trading partners. Imported beads, dinars, and dirhams were found nearby. Moroma was on a trade route, not isolated from events. The early chambers are long, made of birch planks. The men's graves are rich with axes, knives, and Hungarian belts. By the 11th century, the scenario changes. The women's set shrinks to just a pair of temple rings. Sometimes they are already worn on the wrist. Old Russian style is increasingly evident in the items. Even a simple padlock and key suggest connections. From warrior traditions to Scandinavian influence on Murom. The face of ancient power. The west bank of the Nile near Aswan. On the Gebel Kurna hill, archaeologists uncovered rare rock drawings beneath rubble, something rarely seen in Egypt. A scene shows a boat and a ruler in a palanquin, possibly among the earliest pharaoh portraits from the state's formation era. The shape of the boat, with its high ends and knife-like stern, matches the ritual vessels of the late pre-dynastic and early dynastic periods, around 3,200 to 3,000 before Common Era. The detail that researchers argue about is the elongated chin and the mark on the head of the seated figure. They interpret them as a hint at the royal headdress and ritual beard of the first dynasties. In terms of style, the scene is compared to the Narmer mace head. If the parallel is accurate, we're seeing an early visual symbol of royal power. This find is valuable because it's a rare, clear depiction of a ruler outside a tomb's interior in Egypt. On an open rock, literally by the road, the boat sails against the current and people are pulling the rope. A priest at the stern steers. Power is movement and collective labor. We see not a museum statue, but a living note in the margins of an early state. Pyramidal ingots, North Bosnia, Sava River. Underwater archaeologists retrieve not jewelry or coins from the bottom, but hundreds of iron bipyramidal ingots, rare blanks from which, 2,000 years ago, knives, arrowheads, and parts of everyday items were forged. In shape, these are double pyramids. They are almost never found in large numbers among discoveries. Museums in France, Germany, Slovenia, and Sarajevo previously had only single specimens, but here, there's a whole stockpile. This dates to the 1st or 2nd centuries before Christ, when local agricultural networks were reorganized under Roman pressure. At that time, iron was becoming the main currency of craftsmanship. Archaeologists simply believe this is sunken cargo. The river surged, the barge could have capsized, and at the crossing a wagon could have gone into the water. It was light cargo. The current scattered it, and the bipyramidal ingots settled in piles below. Reference points were set, and a 3D photogrammetry model created. Each ingot was immediately placed in distilled water to slow down corrosion. Next comes chemistry. The analysis will tell us what ore the iron was smelted from and what routes it was transported along. If the tracing matches, Sava could become a key transport corridor before Rome arrives, and Bosanska Posavina, a hub where iron became weapons, tools, and infrastructure. This rare hoard reveals production, not luxury. It contains blanks and logistics, not finished goods. This perspective on the economy of that era is useful. Discoveries like these show what was traded and how it was transported. They ate 11 people. Sierra de Atapuerca in northern Spain. In the El Mirador cave, archaeologists examined 2 clusters of human bones and obtained one of the most detailed pieces of evidence of Neolithic cannibalism. Radiocarbon dating places the interval at 5,700 to 5,570 years ago. There were at least 11 people, including adults, teenagers, and 3 children. The bones were lying partly in a natural depression and partly mixed with household waste and animal remains. The cave was used as a pen then. The picture's impact comes from the combination of details, not individual ones. The bones display cut marks from meat removal, fractures for brain and marrow access, human tooth traces, and signs of heating. Some of the materials are burned. In some places, there are traces of boiling. Strontium isotopes show several individuals seem local, not foreign. There are too many coincidences for the bone damage to be accidental. Cuts, fresh fractures, bite marks, and heating. Together they form a clear picture. The most optimistic version is that our ancestors encountered other people. The defeated were killed and eaten. But scientists do not rule out the fact that ancient people might have eaten members of their own community. Idols from Illa. When only an overgrown ditch remains of an abandoned reservoir, an excavator usually comes to heal nature. Workers clean the bottom, remove silt, and shape the banks. During this work, archaeologists often find items from the past. Archaeologists uncovered several stone figures beneath a meter of dense silt, slabs with broad shoulders, a head shape, and slit-like eyes. Some areas show polishing, others have chips. One surface has an ochre trace, as if it was once painted for a ritual. Stylistically, this is not garden decor, but classic anthropomorphic idols that were placed on riverbanks and crossroads at different times. The age could range from the late Neolithic to the early Iron Age. The laboratories will determine that. The context speaks volumes. The figures stood by the water, symbolizing transitions between shores, village, and field, living and ancestors. The silt here acted like a safe. Low oxygen in the water kept the surface from weathering away. The carvings are considered better than those on open stones. The wear on the edges suggests they were moved, possibly relocated several times as the riverbed changed. Wooden stake imprints are in the ground. The idol wasn't just placed in the ground, it was secured, supported, and often surrounded by small stones. As at altars, some theories suggest boundary markers or guarding a crossing, while others propose it was a public gathering spot for rituals or councils. Such finds are also a reminder of responsibility. The bottom deepening work often destroys the cultural layer in an instant. They arrived on time, called specialists, documented, and carefully removed it. Next are conservation, microscopy, and searching for nearby sacrificial pits or ceramic fragments to establish a solid date. Water supply on the Tajikistan Hill, a 65-meter hill in the middle of an arid plateau. It would seem that water is the last thing you would expect here. Norskop showed the opposite. An ancient water system runs along the slopes. Canals, settling tanks, and ceramic pipes with precise slopes. This is not a ditch after the rain. In the trenches, some channel sections were lined with stone and coated with clay, sometimes mixed with organic material for waterproofing. In tight spaces, they used pottery segments as wide as a wrist, inserting them spigot first, sealing joints and securing them with stone wedges. The slope stayed within a fraction of a percent. Water flowed by gravity without eroding the channel bed. On the top ledge, there was a rectangular reservoir with a catch wall. Water first entered here through a sand and gravel filter. Here, silt would settle. Below, there was a distribution basin. 2 branches diverged from it. One went to the utility area, to the kitchen workshop. The other led to the upper platform, where archaeologists are recording traces of ceremonial buildings and a sanctuary. Such a layout is typical for early settlements of Central Asia. First, provide water for people and crafts, then everything else. Where did they get water? A canal traces from the hill to the seasonal stream. Test pits suggest there was a catchment. a basic water collector with a stone box that stabilized flow after rain in dry months. They refilled their supply from cisterns, which have leveled, coated bottoms, and distinctive water lines on the walls. Few direct datings exist, but the ceramics and construction methods suggest the system dates to ancient times or the early Middle Ages, at least 1,500 years ago. Wood that has survived. Wood rarely lasts for centuries. Water, oxygen, and fungi destroy it faster than any archaeologist. That's why organic finds are always special. They show not only the shape of the object, but also the hand of the craftsman. During an excavation in Western Russia, a wooden object was found in a waterlogged layer, an elongated piece with finger grooves and a precisely carved end. By its shape, it is an attached handle or a fastening element that once worked together with leather, a bone insert, or a bronze plate. Thin scratches and marks from a knife and draw knife are visible on the surface. You can identify work stages by frequency: rough shaping, polishing, and sometimes abrasive finishing. Microscopy shows porosity and growth rings, which is enough to determine the species. Usually birch or alder was chosen. They are easy to work with and crack less during drying. Radiocarbon dating and associated ceramics date the complex to the late Stone Age or early Bronze Age. After extraction, the wood is wrapped in a damp cloth, then placed in a polyethylene glycol bath, replacing water in the cell walls with the polymer. To prevent warping, the object is slowly dried in a vacuum. During conservation, specific details emerge. A small notch marks the assembly side, and micro holes on the side are for a cord or rivet. These small details together show how it was used. The handle was inserted into a slot, secured with a cord or a pin, and operated under load. The Black Pyramid often appears in collections of out-of-place artifacts. It's a small stone pyramid from Ecuador, with an inlaid eye at the top, 13 steps and small symbols at the base. It was allegedly found in the 1980s near Limán in the Cotopaxi province. It was found with hundreds of strange objects. The eye glows under ultraviolet light. Based on the drawing of the Orion constellation in ancient script, the artifact is linked to private collections, such as Klaus Dona's Circle and the Crespi collection stories. The issue is the item lacks published archaeological context, excavation report, layer coordinates, and museum inventory history. This is archaeology's main red flag. Ultraviolet fluorescence alone proves nothing, as many minerals and modern pigments fluoresce under black light. Mentions of 13 steps in Orion are based on appearance, not as dating features or indicators of origin. A significant part of the Ecuadorian wonders revolves around the collection of Father Carlos Crespi Cuenca, to which locals brought ancient artifacts for decades without recording the finds. Already in the 20th century, many researchers and journalists have labeled much of this collection as fakes or later handicrafts, and it has not been properly published scientifically. Genuine, anomalous artifacts inevitably leave a trail of documents: location, layer, associated ceramics, charcoal for dating, laboratory reports, and the museum inventory record. The Black Pyramid lacks all of this. An unprecedented treasure, South Moravia. During work on the outskirts of the village, archaeologists came across a pit, and inside it was a dense bundle of objects, stacked in layers. At first it seemed like a workshop, but the setup says otherwise. This is a deliberately hidden treasure. On top were bronze bracelets and rings. Below them were axes with casting sprues, a couple of chisels, fragments of a sword, and several ingots. At the bottom was a compact roll of thin bronze ribbon. Nearby were pieces of a melting crucible and metal drops. The owner was likely a craftsman, hiding not treasures, but working capital, raw materials, and standard forms. The dating confidently points to the late Bronze Age. This is shown by the types of jewelry, sprue marks on the axes, and alloy chemistry. Tin in typical regional amounts with traces of arsenic and nickel. Several items were clearly used. The edges are worn down, and there are repair rivets. These hoards were hidden in dangerous times, or before migration, and sometimes the owners never returned. The find is called unprecedented not because of the gold. The important thing is the integrity of the set and the absence of later interventions. The layer is sealed like an envelope, allowing you to trace the placement order and understand the owner's reasoning. From such sets, you can see how the Bronze Age economy worked in practice, what was considered liquid, how people balanced between jewelry and tools, and where the metal routes passed. A steak from an ancient bison. In 1979, Alaskan gold miners discovered what they initially believed was just an ordinary rock. But under the layer of ice, they found the body of neither a human nor a mammoth, but a bison, almost untouched. They called it Blue Babe due to its bluish skin, caused by a reaction between iron and the surrounding rock. The bison died about 50,000 years ago during the Pleistocene era. The marks on the carcass suggest a cave lion killed it. The main question is how it was preserved. Thanks to the dense permafrost, it's almost like jerky. The hair, muscles, and skin are all intact. This was the first steppe bison specimen ever found in such condition. When the research was finished, the project leader, paleontologist Dale Guthrie, decided to celebrate with a dinner. He took a small piece of meat from the neck, stewed it with onions, carrots, and spices, and served it to his colleagues. The meat turned out to be tough, with a strong, earthy taste. Someone described the aroma as mushroom-like or damp and glacial. No one was poisoned. Everyone survived. This case became legendary. It's rare to eat dinner from an animal that died tens of thousands of years ago. Though a scientific experiment, not a food show, it reminds us of the past. Sometimes it returns straight to the table, not a museum. Treasures after the hurricane. Florida's coast, famously called the Treasure Coast. This isn't the first time gold has been found here, but what divers recovered this summer became one of the biggest discoveries in recent years. There are 1,056 coins, 5 gold, the rest silver, worth about $1 million. But the main thing isn't the price. The coins were recovered from the site where the Spanish fleet sank in 1715. 11 ships carrying gold and silver from the colony to Spain. When a hurricane hit the Caribbean, most of the ships went down, along with them about 1,000 people. 3 centuries later, some of the treasure has resurfaced. The coins are well preserved and the minting is clear. The mint marks show Mexico, Peru, and Bolivia. Some are 8 real pieces, while others are rare commemoratives. Archaeologists say the discovery is more than just numbers. Each coin shows trade, power, and tragedy. They weren't valued for beauty, but as currency that funded empires, built palaces, bought armies, and maintained colonies. Now they are in human hands again, not for profit, but as fragments of lost history swept away by the storm and returned by the ocean. A figurine of Siamese twins. A small ceramic artifact, 2 faces, 1 body. The figurine is fused together with shared legs but different heads. It's pocket-sized, about the size of a palm. This isn't a temple figurine or display piece. It was handheld, moved around, and possibly carried on journeys. On the surface of the ochre, there's a fine polish and edge notches. It's carefully made from 2 halves, the seam smoothed by a carved line. An experienced craftsman made it, but the figurine shows chips, cracks, and wear, unlike a preserved museum piece. Why does it have 2 heads? There's a theory that these aren't twins or a pair, but the same person in 2 different states, alive and dead, asleep and awake, old and young. In several Neolithic cultures, this image represented transitions between times, worlds, and cycles. It wasn't a portrait sculpture, but a diagram of movement from the past to the future through death or renewal. Kukri. This adds another layer. Red was often linked to blood, life, and fire. This figurine is more than odd. It's a symbol where time, the body, and ritual converge. A giant animal cemetery, northern Mexico, the basalt plains of the Suluagengo Basin. During the new airport's construction, bulldozers uncovered a dense layer of bones instead of rock. Initially, they believed these were isolated discoveries, but the aeroscope soon revealed whole fields of Pleistocene fauna, skulls and tusks of Columbian mammoths, horse shoulder blades, and camelid fragments. The material's density forced archaeologists to alter the construction schedule. After studying the bones, scientists found that in the late Pleistocene, this area had small lakes and marshes. In spring, muddy banks trapped heavy animals, causing them to break limbs and drown. This is how traps were formed, where dozens of skeletons accumulated over centuries. Some mammoths have injuries from falling and struggling in mud, while others show signs of predators and erosion. Traces of humans from the end of the Ice Age were previously found in nearby parts of this basin. Bones showed cut marks and evidence of dismemberment, with shoulder blades and ribs neatly arranged. Thus, we can understand the overall picture of the past, where people, predators, and large herbivores would meet at the water, sometimes with a tragic ending. Can isotopic analysis reveal mammoths' diets in their last months and climate changes at the end of the Ice Age? Sometimes regular construction helps more than years of archaeological digs. The man in a fox pelt, Ulujak, Hiyuyuk, Western Anatolia, 9 centimeters of clay, and a very specific image. The man is not naked. On his shoulders lies a fox cloak with a turned-out collar and hanging strips of fur. The modeling is smooth, firing clean, and edges neat, work of a confident local hand. The fox's significance is clear, not mystical. In Anatolian tales, it symbolizes warmth, hunting, and leadership. At Göbekli Tepe, fox pelts on figures link monuments over time and distance. But the meaning is the same, like a symbol of a role. Here, status is read not by the body, but by what is draped over the shoulders. The figurine is for the home. Its trimmed base shows it once stood on a stand. The small chips show it was handled and moved. It was kept indoors, not buried for centuries. For Ulujak, traces of ochre like this are typical on such items. If the paint is confirmed here as well, the cloak could have been highlighted with color. Micro-inscription on the wall. On a rock in western Iran, by a trail that has been used for centuries, archaeologists noticed a fine scratch, barely visible in the shade, and almost invisible under direct light. After RTA and filming, artificial lighting revealed it was an inscription, a matchbox-sized line carved with remarkable precision. The neat letters show no random errors. The repeating angles and sharp endings suggest a practiced hand working from memory. The dating is around the end of the first millennium before Christ. The meaning is simple: a name and brief address to a deity, just a name and request carved in stone at eye level, not as a declaration, but as an action that was important in the moment. The place where the inscription was found was clearly used for a reason. Nearby are cup-shaped depressions, soot traces, and pottery fragments. These suggest people paused here, possibly to leave offerings or simply seek shelter and quiet. A sound from ancient times. In Akhenaten's residential quarter, the capital built by Pharaoh Akhenaten in the desert for the new religion, archaeologists discovered an object that initially appeared insignificant: a finger-sized bone cylinder with a beveled mouthpiece and a neatly carved hole. A close look revealed it was not an ornament or fragment, but a whistle. The material is a light tubular bone, probably from a bird or small hoofed animal. The surface shows polishing marks, and inside, a dark residue builds up over time. All evidence shows it wasn't just stored, but used. It creates a steady tone, and covering the hole changes the pitch. It's not a musical instrument, but it's a fully functional signaling device. The exact purpose is unknown, but there are some working theories. In Amarna, which was called Akhenaten, not many such items have been found. All were found in residential or craft areas. It could have been a child's whistle, a toy, or a signaling tool in a workshop to drown out the noise of the yard or to give a signal to an assistant. Some suggest ritual use, as sound often accompanied rituals, processions, and prayers in Egypt. The whistle is neatly carved, with even proportions and beveled edges. All this indicates that such items could have been produced in small batches near the bone carving workshop. Perhaps it was a part of everyday life, as familiar as dishes or a lamp. Every discovery in this episode is about an individual, their choices, fears, hopes, and mistakes, things they did without knowing someone would eventually uncover them. And maybe that's what real archaeology is all about. Thank you for watching this video until the end. Goodbye, everyone.